I thought I would today, even though I'm on the board of CFSI and we're talking a lot about financial inclusion, I thought I would go full futurist on you guys today. All right, so taking a lead from Jen in that, if you look at the iPhone and the impact that it's had on our lives, I mean, in 40 or 50 years' time, when we look back at financial inclusion and what's been accomplished, obviously the iPhone is going to be a major part of that story in terms of what's happened as a personal device. So this is pretty exciting, but I want to talk about what comes next. What are the technologies that's going to impact financial inclusion and financial health over the next couple of decades? Now, it starts, of course, with this fact that technology is becoming increasingly embedded in our lives. We love technology so much that we camp outside of the Apple stores to wait for our new iPhone, right? But you don't see customers camping outside of their bank waiting for their new checkbook or credit card or debit card very often. So we have a very different business, but technology is infusing with finance. Now, there's a yin and a yang here. This is the love of technology, but technology impacts us in negative ways as well. It creates technology-based unemployment, and and we have this friction that's created. In 1812, the Luddites, who we use that term today to describe people who don't like technology, were textile workers who were displaced by the technology of the steam engine. It wasn't they didn't like technology. They didn't like technology that was taking their jobs. And 200 years later, we see taxi drivers protesting Uber for exactly the same reason. So really, in 200 years, nothing has changed. It hasn't stopped technology from impacting employment patterns and things like that. We can't really stop that much. If you look, this is a way to clearly delineate the impact that technology's had on certain industries over time. This example, you see the red line is number of people working in farms in the United States. In the 1850s, about 70% of the US labor force was involved in agriculture and farming. Today it's 1.6% of the US labor force. And the mechanized tractor, mechanized farming equipment, was a major component of this employment shift. So where did those jobs go? Well, of course, the jobs went out of farms, and initially they went into production of those combustion engine-based products, like the Model T Ford production line, which some economists say is really at the heart of the creation of the middle class in the United States. But today, of course, we see that humans are being taken off the factory floor. Elon Musk says about the Tesla factory process, he says, if we put humans on the factory floor, we have to slow down the production line to human speed. So there's no way Tesla can meet its production goals if humans are on the factory floor. So we see a constant shift based on this technology change. So I wanted to examine what are the big technology disruptors that are coming down the pipe that's going to change the way we live, and certainly change the way we think about financial inclusion. The first is pretty obvious: artificial intelligence, robotics. We tend to break AI into sort of 3 phases of development. Today we're in this machine learning, task-specific machine intelligence phase, where we can teach a machine to do a specific task that a human does, and from all intents and purposes, do it better than humans, because we can do it faster through automation. The next phase is where we have artificial general intelligence, a machine that can fool us into thinking it's a human. And then maybe in 30 or 40 years, we're talking about strong AI, where we have an AI that's smarter than every human in this room. Maybe every human on the planet. So this is going to be obviously the biggest impactor over the next few years. The second disruptor is embedded technology experiences. Just like today, we're used to pulling out our phone and doing selfies and things like that. In the future, technology will be so infused into the world around us, we won't even notice it's there, particularly when we're talking to our technology and it's acting on our behalf as an agent or a smart assistant. Health tech and gene editing is going to revolutionize physical health. Gene therapy is going to eliminate diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, breast cancer, cystic fibrosis. We're just going to edit it out of our genome in the future in 20 or 30 years' time. But personalized medicine, in the meantime, is going to be a dramatic shift in the way we think about treatment. You combine all of these together, and what you have is you have smart cities and smart infrastructure emerging that's differentiated on the basis of the use of technology. So if you want a smart financial institution that's going to be able to provide financial health, the trick is going to be infusing technology into that business. But this creates a challenge for us in terms of shifting our businesses and economies away. So solar is obviously a big part of this shift right now on the global stage. The cost of a kilowatt of energy of solar in the next 10 years will evolve to the point, because of Moore's law and the technology play here, where solar energy, a kilowatt hour, will be 1/10 of the price of coal within about 8-9 years' time. So any economy based on coal will not be able to compete with China and India and these economies who are going renewables first. Which brings us to this guy. It doesn't matter where I go in the world, when I put this photo, I get a laugh. Right? So I'll just leave that out there. I won't get into the politics today. But this is what Trump said in the lead up to the US elections.
We're going to get Apple to start building their damn computers and things in this country instead of in other countries.
So he promised this along with bringing jobs back to coal. But this is a problem because it underlies a systemic thinking that is an issue. If Apple was to come back to the United States to manufacture their iPhones here, then how would they do that? Well, they would use the same production technologies they're using in China today. And Foxconn, who's their main producer of iPhones today, is replacing 6,000 human workers a week with robots at this point. So if they were to come back and do this here, would they put robots or humans on the factory line? It's pretty clear, right? So we're going to see the emergence of these smart factories, which are highly automated. We see the Gigafactory in Nevada and elsewhere. And we're going to see other smart infrastructure in place, such as autonomous vehicles. Now, within 10 years, we're going to start to see a lot of these autonomous vehicles on the road. But this has a yin and the yang impact. There's 2 million transcontinental truck drivers in the United States who are going to be impacted by this technology. But if you don't do this as an economy, you won't be able to compete with other economies. You're going to have to invest in this. But we're going to figure out how to retrain all those truck drivers, and what are we going to do? How's this going to impact their financial health when they don't have regular income and so forth? There are some big questions that we have to answer with this technology disruption coming. But the biggest question is probably, how's it going to impact us personally? We're starting to augment our own humanity with these technologies. Now, for guys like Bob and myself, we've been wearing glasses most of our life. We've already augmented our vision with these simple prescription lenses that we wear. And in fact, we've been doing that since the year 1200. We can now look at stars, distant stars, and see exoplanets orbiting them, or we can take photographs at the atomic level with this technology we have. But how's this going to augment our vision and our life in the future? Well, the biggest thing that's going to come down the pipe over the next 10 years will be the emergence of mixed reality technology. Now, I'm just going to show you a quick video, and while we're talking about this...
It starts with a question.
Could you drop the volume, guys? Thanks. So this is a depiction of using mixed reality or augmented reality in the workplace, a virtual office space, using augmented reality head-up display glasses. And this is, for a design of a shoe that's featured here by Nike. And you can see a variety of team members working on this in real time using augmented reality. Now, they're not using a display. The display comes through their head-up display in the glasses. This sort of technology right now exists, but it's in its infancy. But Apple is betting big on this. You remember that speech that Steve Jobs gave about the iPhone? I think you should expect Tim Cook to give a similar speech about augmented reality glasses in the near term, in the next few years. Apple is betting big on this technology, and they intend to introduce a day-to-day product that in 10 years' time will be as common as the iPhone, but you wear on your face with a head-up display built into that. But of course, when we start talking about the impact of technology, AI often comes up. How's AI going to impact us? And of course, we see depictions of artificial intelligence in Hollywood. The Terminator T-1000 and Ava ex machina. But I will point out Hollywood is not a scientific research body, because today robots don't look like this, they tend to look like this. So this is not exactly predicted by Hollywood, but artificial intelligence as a component of this technology drive and these disruptions, it's interesting to think about where this will impact us. Because when you start talking about financial inclusion and financial health, we often think of the advice piece where a human differentiates. So the real question for financial services moving forward is, will humans have any value? We were talking about this over dinner last night, Jerry, right? Will humans have some value in this ecosystem moving forward? Well, let me get down to the heart of this in terms of where advice is going to be disrupted. Right now today, we have the IBM Watson team here today. Brian's here. He's going to talk about this, I imagine. We have Watson better at diagnosing cancer than the best cancer doctors in the United States with 25 years experience. Why? Because Watson can synthesize 17, 20 years of medical research data in an instant, then apply blood work and x-rays and all of these other things to the diagnosis more consistently with better information, more perfect information than a human, because of the ability to synthesize all of that data. Even if an oncologist has been in the business for 25 years and read all those research papers, if he's anything like me, he's probably forgotten half of that stuff, right? But Watson doesn't forget, and it can analyze that in an instant. So machines are getting better at synthesizing data to give advice. But machines are starting to surprise us. They're starting to take unconventional approaches from a human perspective. This is Google's machine learning algorithm behind translation, Google Translate. It has come up with its own machine language. They call it interlingua, Google call it, language that sits between other languages, to translate two disparate languages, one from the other. The engineers don't understand this language. Only Google's AI does. So AIs are going to start to diverge from human thinking, but going to be better at it. We're not going to understand why they're better at it, but they'll figure out unique approaches. When we look at financial services, things like identity algorithms are already part of this, where we can see that machines are able to identify you using facial recognition and other technologies, biometrics, heuristics, 20 to 30 times better than a human sitting in a branch looking at your driver's license and comparing your face. So the riskiest thing a bank does every day, day to day today, is a face-to-face identity verification based on this technology. Now, the other thing is that AI is showing some personality. There's two robotic self-driving race cars that Audi built, and if you read Augmented, you would have heard this story. Audi built Test Vehicle A and Test Vehicle B. They nicknamed them AJ and Bobby. And Bobby drives faster and more aggressively than AJ, consistently. And when I asked the engineers at Audi, why is that? They said, yeah, we're really not sure. But we think it's because one of the engineers was driving more aggressively early in the piece, and so Bobby sort of learned that style of driving over AJ. But here's two self-driving cars with the same hardware, firmware, software, same vehicles, that drive differently from each other because their algorithm or the learning has taken place differently. So here's the rub. If you think about self-driving cars as an analogy for financial health and how we give advice, this is the LiDAR rig on a self-driving car in terms of what it sees. So it sees 1,000 times more information than your human eye can take in every second it's driving. 1,000 times more than you can see. Because we can only look in one direction when we're driving, where a LiDAR rig looks 360 degrees up and down. And it can process that information 70% faster than your neocortex. So statistically speaking, once this technology is mature, no human will ever be as safe as an autonomous vehicle with this technology. Statistically impossible for a human to compete because of the ability to synthesize data or information. And when you talk about financial advice, the behavior of the customer, their personal issues, all of that, we don't know that stuff, but your AI built into your smartphone will. Your AI built into your home will. And that's where this technology is going to differentiate in terms of ability to shift behavior of people on the day-to-day personal level. So the advice we're going to be looking for from machines in the future is not necessarily the sort of advice you go to a bank for today, like what's the best credit card for me, what's the best mortgage, what's the best asset class for me to invest in. The best financial advice we'll get from this technology stack in the future will be, hey Siri, can I afford to go out for dinner tonight? That's the sort of advice that financial health will see instituted through smart assistant technology, AIs built into our environment. So let me just illustrate this point from a design parameter with one final view of sort of this emerging technology. And I'll let Alec Baldwin do that. Have the volume up, guys?
Yeah.
You're okay. He's okay. He made it.
Jason, what do you mean?
We were very bad boys.
Alexa, what's in the news?
Here's the news.
Alec Baldwin and Jason Schwartzman were seen mooning paparazzi. Baldwin grew a shoe at photographers before making a run for it.
My poor cashmere socks. Alexa, reorder another pair of Brescianis.
Reordering Bresciani socks.
Okay, listen. Can you send some lawyers or something? Alec.
Okay, so if you're in banking today, you're looking at this, you go, that's pretty cool. Did you notice what he ordered? Bresciani socks, $200 Bresciani socks. My guess is Amazon probably paid for them. But so Alec is there, he orders his socks. Now, which credit card did he use to buy the socks? Do you think an airline miles promotion this month would have changed the payment vehicle he used for Alexa? Would he say, Alexa, reorder me a pair of Bresciani socks, but let me get you this other credit card that I've got. Do you think that's the way it's going to work? No. So if you're in the business of designing financial products in this new world, you have to think completely differently from the products that we've had on a legacy basis. So structurally, this is going to mean some changes. If you don't like immigrants taking your jobs, you're probably going to like AIs and robots taking them even less, right? But we are going to have to think about these situations differently. Ultimately, in societies like the United States, we may need to look at things like universal basic income or universal basic asset structures to support this massive technology shift in terms of employment. But there's one thing for sure, is that by 2025, just a few years away, every industry, the leading company in that industry will be a technology-first company. And in banking, that's no different. The largest financial institution in the world in 2025 will be Ant Financial, Alipay, out of China. So I'll leave you with one thought to finish this off. With all of this impact of technology on our day-to-day basis, AIs, robots, and so forth taking over the world, one thing you don't want to be is this guy on video hitting a robot with a stick, right? I'm not saying robots are going to be ambivalent or benevolent or whatever, but you just want to be sure. You don't want to put yourself on the wrong side of the robots here in terms of this. If you want to find out what's happening in fintech space with all of these technologies in terms of AI and so forth, don't forget to check out the podcast Breaking Banks. And thanks, Jan and the team at CFSI for having me on today. Thank you very much.